Welcome to the Healing Spirits Here and There podcast with Terri and Amanda, where you'll hear spiritual perspectives, weird mediumship experiences, and try intuitive and trust-building exercises for yourself. Join us every Friday. Like and subscribe to never miss a show, and let's get started. Hello and welcome to Healing Spirits Here and There. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Terri. Today is pretty exciting for this Friday. We have our first guest, and we are going to be talking to Janet Hickox with Living Astrology. She's going to be talking about astrology and human design and a little bit about astrology and how the stars are aligned.
All right, let's bring her in.
Good morning.
Good morning, Janet. How are you?
Fine and dandy, thank you. I'm so excited to be here with the both of you.
Oh, I have goosebumps that we have our first guest. And she's
A friend. We have the friend client.
Yes, friend, but also colleague.
Oh, there we
Oh,
go.
I like this word.
I like
Yeah.
it too.
We do similar things, just in a different way.
There we go.
So, Janet, can you tell us the difference between astrology and the human design today?
Yeah, so both of the systems, astrology and human design, are absolutely fabulous tools for us to find out more about ourselves, our life map, and so forth. When we're talking about astrology, though, we're talking about a very more mechanical view of the universe, as in, we're taking a snapshot based on your birth date, birth time, and birthplace of where all the planets were in the solar system and how they were placed in your chart. And then it is up to the astrologer to sort of read that and determine, what types of things to share with the client. But human design, I think, goes a little bit further. It's much more about the energetics of who you are. So we still use planets, and that's still based on your birth time, birth date, and birthplace. But in human design, it really starts to show and pull out how it is that you're here to be authentically you, how you are here to make the best decisions for you, and how you are meant to be in relationship with other people. And I think that's the most stellar, to use a really awesome word, stellar way to think about it is that I have both of your charts here. Of course, you guys have it too, but I've colored mine in. But I could see immediately, like these maps coming together, which in astrology, I could do the same thing, but it's not so obvious, right? There's not this obvious thing about who's energetically dominant, for example, or what energies are left out of the plan of the map as it comes together. So, for the most well-rounded reading, I really, really love human design. Now, here's what else I've done lately, though, is I started to blend them. Now I can almost not tease them apart as easily. So, I mean, I know that if you're a Cancer, that there's certain gates that are going to show up as defined in your chart, and that if you are an Aquarian, certain gates are going to be defined. So I'm already, thinking about how both systems cross over, but that's a little bit more complex to share with people that don't really know either system.
Right.
Yeah.
You got to have like a little basis for
Yeah. In
for
fact, in
to
any reading
understand.
that I do starts with an explanation of the chart because, you're looking at it. First of all, the very first time I ever saw my chart, this was way back in 2012. We were getting ready, to talk about the ending of the Mayan calendar. And this guy is on the show and he says something about human design astrology. And as an astrologer, I'm like, what? How do I not know about this? Right. I'm like, show me, show me, show me. So next thing I know, I saw my own, just like this. It was a chart just like this that he sent me. And I looked at that and I got, like, you were just getting chill bumps, right? I just knew there was something really profound about this. And it almost almost to everybody that I've ever shown their chart to, they're like drawn in, right?
Yeah.
Drawn in. Where the astrology chart is great too, but it looks such a fright. I think often people are like, "Oh my God, I don't know what anything means here. Tell me, tell me." So both
Mhm.
systems work really well. I just happen to really like human design because I think for you as a client, don't you
Mhm.
want to know how is it that I'm supposed to make the best decisions for me?
Right.
Right? One big example is that everybody on the planet, just about, believes that they're here to make decisions from the head, right? How to
Mm.
calculate or compare and contrast or pros and cons or, um, decide a plan of action from the mind. But there isn't any one person on this planet designed to make decisions that way.
Right. It's
And
not that easy.
mm-mm. And it's not that easy, but it also is very confusing because the mind can go off in so many different directions
Mm.
that it's really hard to determine from the mind itself. The mind is really just about awareness, awareness of
Mhm.
how things compare,
Right.
awareness of an analysis, perhaps, of what, this or that. But it really doesn't have any energy of decision making. The decision making energy comes from much lower in the body. This is called the body graph, by the way. It
Mm.
comes from down here below the identity center. Some people,
Like,
don't like Terry. Terry does not have authority or doesn't have a decision making tool, if you will,
cool.
as in, something that I can see in the chart. But I know that someone like Terry makes decisions by talking to other people and being able
Oh,
to see the reflection of her own truth in what it is that other people are saying to her. And
I,
she's a
that's
talker.
yeah, because Terry will say she wants something, but then she sends it to a bunch of people to get their thoughts. And I'm like, Terry, just choose the one you like best. You don't have to do that. No, it makes sense.
She does. She absolutely does because she has no centers defined. So these things are called
Wow.
centers, right? Each one of these little geometric places. And I'm sorry, I colored in Terry's here. Oops, that was Terry's. That's Terry's colored in. Um,
I just don't want to make bad decisions. Well, that would be hard if you don't have something that gives you a definite feeling like this is what I'm going to do, and I'm completely fine with that.
Yeah. So for you, Amanda, your decision making comes from your intuition, right? So
Mhm.
in the moment that there's an opportunity for you, or
Mhm.
somebody asks you if you want to do something, your intuition is immediately speaking to it in response to something outside of you. And so that could be a person, or it could be an email, it could be something you see, but it has to be outside of you.
Mhm.
And when your intuition speaks,
Mhm.
and you get your truth in that moment. But it doesn't keep blasting you going, Amanda, I told you not to do that. Or Amanda, I said to go in that direction. It doesn't keep doing that. It's like one time in response to something, you get
Mhm.
that answer and you either are okay with that and act, which would keep you in the right lane for you, or you ignore it. You don't hear it, or
Mhm.
you kind of override it because it's not what you maybe expected as the answer. So for
Gotcha.
you, at least you have something there that in response to things in your outer world will give you a clue as to what it is that you're meant to do. Terry, on the other hand, has nothing. There's just nothing there. So
Great.
she's very dependent. She's actually in a minority. Less than
Yeah.
1% of the people on this planet have a design like Terry's. And it's why, Terry, you're so good at, being a medium or picking up
Mhm.
information or psychically, attuning to those that have passed on. But I also bet you pick up psychic energy from the people around you, the live people around you.
I do.
And that's because of all that openness. We call it open if
Mhm.
it's white, and it's defined if it's in color. You have no color, right? Or very little color. No centers are colored in. So you're always in a process of bouncing off other people so that you can see yourself more clearly. So it's uber important
Wow.
for you to surround yourself with loving, kind, generous, trustworthy, positive people, people who have your best interest at heart,
Mhm.
because then you'll actually see the right or correct reflection back to you. But you're also a lunar being. And a lunar being, it's because the moon moves the fastest of all the planets, right? So every day the moon is moving through probably two or three of the gates. And the gates are these numbered areas that you see within each of the energy centers. And so the moon is moving through two to three of them. And that gives you access to different energies on different days of the month. And it's predictable.
Wow.
There is a predictability to it. And so sometimes that energy is going to come together and it's going to define a center. And now you find yourself very easily talking to people, or maybe you find
Mhm.
yourself very emotional. And normally that emotion is other people's emotion, but now you're feeling it and you're emotional. And that's all dependent on the moon, thus a lunar being. So, because the moon takes 29 and a half days to go completely around all 64 gates of the human design, big decisions in your life need to wait for that full 29 and a half days.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
So,
big
Janet,
decisions.
is
Like
this
getting,
all? Sorry.
no, I was going to say getting into or out of relationships, getting into or out of a job, spending a big chunk of money, uh, anything that is of big importance in your life needs that full 29 and a half days in order to get to your best truth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
for our viewers, is this information that you've gathered primarily from human design?
Yes,
At
all
this
of that
point?
is from human design.
Okay.
All of that is from human design. But now, human design, like astrology, uses the planets, and the
Mhm.
planets move, right? They move. So I can look and see, like, for example, for all of us on the planet right now, we have certain gates that are defined by the sun, the earth, by the north and the south nodes, and on through the whole list of planets. So at various times throughout the months, other planets are also defining us in different ways.
Mm.
But the moon being the fastest moving is giving Terry at least access to her truth in various ways.
Wow.
So, in Terry's case, because the planets are, or because the moon is doing that, she also still needs to be able to talk to people about what she's thinking about doing. Because in a way, I think, Terry, it makes me think that you're kind of a verbal processor, right? That when you're talking to Amanda or you're talking to me, whatever it is you're saying, you're also hearing,
Mm.
and you're able to in some way process, oh yeah, no, that doesn't feel right to me now, even if that's not,
Oh.
you're seeing yourself reflected in the reactions from everybody around you. It's pretty intense actually, because you can't just shut it off, right?
No,
Everybody.
I don't see nothing.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Wow.
you're open, Terry, to so much. You're open to the seen and the unseen, right? So
Mhm.
that's always there. You're just open to it.
Right.
All of humanity is open to that. But not everybody wants to be open to it, so they can maybe consciously shut it down, or they're just not wired to hear it. But
Mhm.
you're wired to hear it. At times, there may be days when you're better at it than other days, Terry, just because of where the moon is and how,
Mm.
what's
I,
interfering, if you will.
I love to do readings on a full moon or a new moon.
That makes sense.
And it's probably related to where the moon is in your own human design. And
Oh,
we could dive down through a tunnel here and talk about so many different things. Now, let's back up for a second for the people who are listening, because there are five types in human design. So we have 12 signs in astrology, five types in human design. There are generators, manifesting generators, projectors, manifestors, and reflectors. The generators and the manifesting generators together make up about 70% of the population.
wow.
So then we get these projectors that make up about 22% of the population, and manifestors make up maybe 8%, and then that leaves less than 8% of the world out there being reflectors. And it is a generated world, in other words, that we live in, right?
Right.
The generators are ones that are broadcasting sustainable life force energy, or what you might call productivity.
Mm.
And the other three types, the projector, manifestor, and reflector, do not have access to their own sustainable life force energy. So they're always borrowing it, if you will, um, from the people around them. And doing so exhausts them. They have to really understand all three types, but especially a reflector who's being exhausted by everything and everyone, that they're borrowing this energy and that they have to build in time for aloneness, time for restoration, withdrawing from people,
Mm.
rest, sleep, just getting away from it all and not get themselves involved in serial events, right? Because that
Oh,
you could do that, when you're young, but the older you get, you start reaching into burnout territory if you're using other people's energies all the time. And that's another important thing about knowing yourself, which is what this is all about. Know yourself first.
right.
Then you can be in your own authenticity. And when you're feeling stretched or you're feeling tired, or you're, especially you, Terry, when you're feeling, melancholic, you can pull yourself away. That could be a sign that you're being barraged by too much energy. You need to go out into nature, perhaps, or you need to just get out of the house into a different house. Or I know you have those two buildings, get into a building where there's no other people. Uh, and, even animals can be helpful to you because they have a completely different design. And there's a mammalian design, and animals can be a very calming influence
Mm.
for all humans, but especially when you have that much openness. What'd you say?
I whispered over to her and said, I have 6 cats.
I have one behind me. She's like passed out. She's like my little muse whenever I'm on
The
air. She's
animals are
behind
the
me
happy
on her little tiger blanket.
thing. Cute.
Yeah. So anyway, 5 types, it's important to know because if you're somebody like you and me, Amanda, you're a generator, I'm a generator.
Mhm.
And generators have well, every type has a strategy for how they enter into life in general. How you make decisions is partly about that. Oh, a big part of that. And
Mhm.
generators make decisions based on what is showing up in the outer world. So for example, we all get inspired, right? You have all of us have head centers and ajnas. So that's, the place where inspiration enters in or where ideas are generated from often. And yet we are not designed to act from those impulses. We have to
Mm.
wait until that outer world mimics something that we had as an idea. So it's almost like looking for signs
Oh.
or omens or claydons in what is that? Colette Barry Reed calls them claydon signs, right? Something in your outer world that matches the picture. So, for example, you could wake up this morning and say, "Oh yeah, I want to go to Hawaii. I'm so tired of the rain. I'm tired of the cold. I'm tired of the wind. I want to go.
Mhm.
If the wind is howling, I want it to be a warm wind. So I want to go to Hawaii."
Yeah.
Now, the way we are these days, you could get up, you could go right to your computer, you could set that all up, but literally, that was an idea or an inspiration that came in, but there's nothing in the outer world yet that's concretely telling you that that's the correct decision for you. But let's say you got dressed and you're off to town to go, see the doctor, and you see a new sign, that a billboard that says, fly Hawaiian Air, daily flights from SeaTac. You're like,
There's my sign.
there's your sign, right? And then maybe your doctor says, you know what your whole problem is, Amanda, is you're totally stressed out. You need a vacation. So now there are two big things in your outer world
Oh.
that are
Mm.
pointing you in the same direction as your inner voice was directing.
That 1000% agree. That's so
Yeah,
funny to hear it explained like that.
yeah. And literally, I think the fear that generator types, both manifesting generators and generators have, is that nothing's going to show up that's
Mm.
going to tell you that yes, that what you want is here, do it. And that's so not true. Nothing that is truly yours is ever going to be withheld from you. That's just not how spirit works.
Mm.
And if it's not showing up, then it might just be not the right timing, right? Maybe airfares are too high right now, right? Wait
Right.
for another month and next time, the airfares might be even better. So we have to have a little bit of faith and we have to really trust that we're not being, damned for the things that we want or being, told no. It just maybe is not right now. Right? Not
Yeah.
right
And
now.
Janet, you want to hear something real funny?
Yeah.
The past few days, we were like, we should plan a trip to Hawaii. I'm not kidding. That's
So
okay.
here I am in your outer world,
Yeah.
right? Ugh.
Oh,
So
that's
maybe
a
that's the
trip.
thing
But
that you guys need to do.
in my appointment book right now, it's
Uh-huh.
booked out for a session in March to go to Hawaii.
Well,
Just so funny. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm going.
But that's how the universe works, right? So I inadvertently am playing the role of something for you to respond to. Now, just because I showed up and said, an idea about, Hawaii doesn't mean that it's a yes, make that trip. Right. So that's where your inner authority comes in. And this is the trouble spot for Terry a little bit because she doesn't have inner authority. She's going to have to talk to other people about it. In your case, Amanda, you have what is called splenic awareness generated. 3 words that say you're intuitive, right? Intuition.
Gotcha.
And where that's coming from is in your chart, this center is defined, and this is called the spleen. I know it is not anatomically correct, but the spleen is the center for time, intuition, health, and it is also a place where fear lives, right? It has survival energy associated with it. And the spleen is the seat of our intuitive self, right? And you have a very specific way, likely, that you get intuitive information. Unlike Terry, who's probably wide open channel, can get all kinds of things, you may get it from a specific direction. And there is no like, I can look at it and go, oh, yeah, you hear it, or oh, you see it, or oh, you're what is it? Clairaudient, clairvoyant, clairsentient. It can be it can be any number of directions that you get it from, but there's one that shows up consistently, and it could even be body wisdom for you. It could be your body that says, "Aha," like, "Yes, I want that." Or it could be, no, right? No. But it happens spontaneously in response when you're responding to something in your outer world.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's trust that could be the problem for you in that, right? Trusting that that was correct, right? Because your mind then will jump in, and the mind wants to know how, when, why, what, where. Can you prove it? Let's think about this. What's the pros? What's the cons? On and on and on. And the mind is meant, it has holds consciousness, and you're meant to put that consciousness to work for you, not against you. So we can't really trust the mind to help us because it can be so confusing. There's so many things that the mind can go through. And yet the body itself is telling you the truth in the moment. But humans kind of we kind of got away from this. As we moved into the Renaissance age, or the age of science and reason dawned, we started the process of becoming much more aware of our minds, and that thinking and reasoning, logic took over. But humans initially, we were instinctual, just like the animal kingdom, right? There was instinct. We did things at the timing that the universe was presenting to us because inside we knew that we were in for a hard winter. So we would need to, do certain things to prepare. But our modern life has taken us away from that in some ways. So we're reestablishing the connection, or you are in this case, to a tool that you've always had. In fact, everybody has it. Everybody has it. There's not a human alive that doesn't have intuition, even, people that don't have this defined. It just comes inconsistently to some people and in different ways. And for you, Amanda, it comes a little bit more um, distinctly. And my guess for you is that it is connected both to body wisdom, like the body saying, yes, let's do it, but also from the soul, right? Your spleen, your intuition is also connected to your identity center. So it really has another voice that it's listening to, and that's the voice from the soul, the deeper parts of yourself.
I like
Soul-based intuition and action-based or body-based intuition. That's my
cool.
suspicion
Thank
for you.
you.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. But at the same time, it can be very difficult to listen to that because we live in a world where people want to know, well, why did you make that decision? Why now? Right?
Mhm.
You know, or you're afraid in some respects that people are going to ask those questions.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of things I have strong opinions about because I feel like I just know what's best for me, and
Hmm.
I don't talk about it because I don't want to have to explain anything to people. I just
Hmm.
keep a lot of things private, so I don't have to talk about it.
Yeah, I get that. And
Mhm.
generator types can become more confused by talking about it with other people, uh, which is kind of weird, right? Because on the one hand, we are we're naturally talkers. We're naturally communal beings. Humans are in general.
Yeah.
And it's natural for us to want to talk, to discuss. But I have done this so many different times, and then I end up more confused, more, lost in terms of what do I need to do than when I don't talk to anybody about whatever it is that I'm thinking about and just really tune in to my own power. Mine happens to be emotional energy. So I have
Oh,
to tune into
cool.
my emotions. In your case, tuning into your emotions isn't going to help you, right?
Oh, no,
No,
that's a bad move for me.
that's a bad move for you because you might be doing things because it makes other people happy,
1,000%. Yeah.
or it's somebody else's truth, not necessarily your own truth,
Mhm.
because you have an open emotional center. So you're picking up the emotion from everybody. Which
Mhm.
reminds me, we should probably talk about these centers like that. So when you see a center and it has color, it is where you are broadcasting your own natural self, your own authenticity, right? It's your superpower, if you will.
Mhm.
When you see an open center or a white center, it has no color in it, that's a place where you're taking in the energy from around you. So that can be from planets or people. And our tendency is to take that energy and amplify it in those centers and then rebroadcast it, believing it's our own
Oh,
energy when it really isn't.
I
So,
see.
yeah, if you're in a family of a bunch of emotional people, you're taking in their emotion. You are amplifying it, and now you're the bigger emotional projector, right? You're
And you have open everything. Look at this. Should I pop up the chart so they can see Terry as an
yeah.
example?
Oh, yeah, because I put you guys side by side in that graphic, and it's really kind of cool to look at.
Yeah, let me find the screen here.
Oh, and I don't want you to forget to talk about the 21st or the 22nd when things change as well.
Okay, let me just pop this up
Yeah. Do
real
you want me to talk about that well now, or you want me to wait?
Anyway, in the end, because you're comparing our charts.
Oh, here we go. Look at you two. So the first thing you're going to see is that Terry, who's on the well, as I see it, she's on the right, has no color in any of the centers. That is the very thing that makes her a reflector. She is the only type that has no color in it, right? She has gates that are defined because planets are. She still has planets that are activating certain things. And what I want you to think about the gates is that they are traits that lie within your DNA. So there's a very strong connection here with human design to spirituality and science and how they meet, right? In science, we have 64 codons that are a part of your DNA. In the I Ching, a divine spirituality, there was 64 or are 64 hexagrams. And human design, there are 64 gates, but they're all related to the DNA, which brings science and the spiritual or the divine together in a graphic sort of way. And so we can see that for Terry, every gate that she has defined that has the little lines that are colored, they only go halfway across a channel. If they went all the way across, they would turn those channels on, or they would turn those centers on, excuse me. But she doesn't. So she is a being that unleashes her power in the in under the influence of other people. So when I started looking then at Amanda, so then Amanda, she has 4 centers defined. They're the color. She's broadcasting that energy. So she's broadcasting. I just am trying to use my pointer. Do you guys see my pointer?
No.
Oh, boo hiss. All right. Well, I'll point just because it makes me feel better. So the second center up from the bottom here is the sacral center. And
Hmm.
it's very similar, by the way, to chakras, but not
Can you
exactly.
see
So they're not.
mine?
Yeah, this is
Is that
yours. I'm on
okay?
yours right now. So this second from the bottom that's colored in red is where you are broadcasting sustainable life force energy. Okay. And then below that is the root center. It is a pressure center. It is the pressure and the impetus to go out into the world, to do, to emote, and to survive, right? To find success. And then the spleen center is defined. That is the center that we talked about for time, intuition, and health. And then you also have an identity that is defined, right? So you know who
Mm.
you are. Even if you question what am I doing here? Who am I? Those kind of questions, you might still have them, but by and far away, you know who you are. Now, if you look at Terry's chart, she doesn't have any of that defined. She doesn't know
Wow.
always who she is. She does not have access to the same, her intuition is a little bit inconsistent, but she's a wide open channel, as we've already discussed. So it's coming
Mhm.
from a million different places, possibly. She does not have access to sustainable life force energy. And the open root center is consistently under pressure to do, right? Get the
Mm.
list out and start listing all the things I have to get done in order to be free of doing it.
Yes.
So, yeah, and that can totally stress you out. You, Terry, do not have access to adrenalized stress energy or what to do with that adrenalized stress. But Amanda, you do.
Mhm.
Now, here's the fun part of human design is that when you bring these two charts together, you two are sitting right next to each other in the same room. So, right at this moment, Terry is borrowing your identity, Amanda, your splenic energy, your sacral energy, and your root energy.
Cool.
Now,
And then
over
you share.
time, if you were
Yes.
to be together every day, 24/7, this could be a source of stress for Terry, right? Because
Mm.
she's going to feel that pressure to always be doing. She's going to feel that
Oh,
sacral energy and give her this bump up in her energy. She's going to feel your identity. And she is going to also kind of fall in alignment with intuition the way that you do intuition. Okay.
that is interesting.
Yes. And then when you separate, she goes home. There might be, Terry, for you, a time where you feel empty, right?
Mm.
Because you had all this energy, you had all
Mhm.
of this potent energy. And
Mhm.
then now you're in your car on your way back to your house and it's gone. It's
Mhm.
gone. And it can be where you start to feel exhausted, where you can feel a little melancholic, where there's this dip in energy, where you kind of are missing that energy. Or it can also show up as you consistently acting as if that energy is still a part of who you are
Mhm.
and keep acting as if. And of course, that's going to lead you to burnout as well because it isn't there
Oh.
anymore.
Okay, that makes sense because in a group, once I walk out of that room, the whole next day I'm in bed because I think it's not only all the people that are there, five, six, whatever, but then it's all these people,
Right? Your
right?
whole human design lights up like a Christmas tree, and and
Right.
and
Wow. I
you're
get
utilizing that
goosebumps.
energy, and then it's not there. It's gone.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you
This is
need,
incredible
yeah,
because then I do feel
yeah.
empty. And so when you look at the chart, like we're doing the podcast and we were talking, then how does it work for me and Amanda as partners for the podcast?
Well, it works really well. So can you put that picture back up for a
Yeah,
second, Amanda?
yeah, absolutely.
Because while you're together, those centers are overlapping, right? So Amanda's four centers are also defined in your centers, Terry. But there's more than that. There are electromagnetics at work here. So electromagnetics happen when Amanda has one half of the channel and you have the other half, and you're drawn together, right? If you've ever watched magnets that are
Yeah.
opposite poles, right? They come together. When they're the same poles, they repel, right? Or they're just not activated. So all of those gates act like magnets. And so, for example, one of the things that I think is really indicative of you two being in a relationship like this, of broadcasting relationship, let's say,
Mhm.
is because in Amanda's chart, this gate 23 is defined. In Terry's chart, the gate 43 is defined. So when the two of you come together, there's this magnetic pull and it connects and it turns on the throat center and turns on the ajna.
Wow. Wow, cool.
And that channel is one that is kind of magical because it's where our genius lives in our chart.
Magical.
So,
There you go.
right? So,
Mhm.
Terry is holding the insightful end of it. The how can I like the forward thinking, the edge
Mhm.
of normal. Right. She's ahead of
Mhm.
time kind of. And Amanda, you're holding the assimilation end. You're holding the part that simplifies everything.
It's
And
true.
I recognize this at work because between the three of us, I'm
Mhm.
also a gate 23 and
Mm.
which is on the throat center. So Terry, you're also filling in for me that same ability to translate genius into words. So
Wow.
that makes sense. So that when the two of you are together, no matter, it doesn't even matter what you're talking about. You could be talking about how to grow vegetables, and somehow genius would come and match with words. And
Mm.
that's a very powerful, it's probably the most powerful connection that you can have to be in broadcasting like you are together,
Oh,
to work together, because it turns that
Wow.
center on. So
Amazing.
so now when we would look at Terry, she would have a defined ajna and throat, identity, sacral, root center, and spleen. Now, one more thing happens between the two of you. In Terry's chart, she has the gate 49 on the emotional center defined. You have the gate 19, Amanda, defined.
Mhm.
And that means that that's another electromagnetic drawing you two together. And that
Mhm.
also turns on your emotional center. So you are
oh.
also both who don't normally have emotions that are your own, right? You're feeling
Mhm.
other people's emotions. Now you're able to set a tone with people, an emotional tone with people where
Mm.
if you were presenting something of sadness, that is the tone that is going to come through, the emotion that you're picking up and broadcasting. If it's
Mhm.
lightness or happiness, that is, what's going to come through. So that's a very powerful connection for the two of you as well. And there are only two centers. Hold on, am I right? Yes, there's only two centers that stay open between the two of you. And that's the head center, which is the Center for Inspiration and Ideas. So you're both open to becoming inspired by any number of things.
Okay.
And
Mm.
the ego or the will center stays open between the two of you. So there is a very generous spirit that comes through, a part of both of you that acts a little bit like you're not worthy or has trouble seeing how lovable or worthy you are.
For
how
sure.
how valuable what you're saying or talking about is to
Mm.
people, and that doesn't get connected up. So that's still so in the real world, then what you would have to do is work a little bit with one another to boost each other's egos up, to
Mm.
boost each other's value, because you're both coming from that place of not necessarily seeing worthiness within you. Now, Amanda, you see that a little bit better because you have a defined identity center. So deep in your core, you know your value and worth, but it's not added to by the ego. So the ego is always
Mm.
questioning, am I worthy? Is this, do people
Mhm.
really want to listen to me? And Terry, you're
Totally.
always open. So this is always an issue for you, right? You don't always see yourself as lovable or loved or recognized and heard and all of that. So coming together is much more than just the centers that come together.
Wow.
It's how do the electromagnetics, which are even more powerful than the centers being defined, how do they join you up, right? How do they join you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, also in some
Incredible.
cases, Amanda, like you have these channels that are defined, and those channels are what defines you, Terry, right? It can be the center, but it's also going to be this connection from intuition to the soul of who you are, and intuition to the action orientation of the sacral. So it's very involved. But to me, when I look at it, I see the picture, and it turns out like this. Right? It looks like this when you two come together.
Oh,
Oh, get rid of
cool.
those little ones and bring her
Here.
up there.
Yeah. So there you can see it a little bit better. And this is me coloring it in. I just used
Gotcha, that's why you did it.
because Carrie's was open, I could just color it in, right?
Yeah.
And that shows us that how much of it becomes defined. And those orange lines are what defines the centers for you, right? What it is that
Wow.
Amanda has that you'll borrow when you're with her.
Mm.
Yeah.
I see. So now
Yeah.
for our viewers, this is such great information to know about yourself and the people you're around a lot. How can they get this information from you, Janet?
Great question, because I offer a free chart and report to everybody for free. All you need to do is go to my website, www.living-astrology.com. And up at the very top, it says get your free human design chart. Click on that, and you'll have to enter in your birth date, birth time, and birthplace.
Great.
And when you do, then I receive notification that you want a chart, and I do those charts by hand.
Okay.
So it takes a day or so sometimes, depending on how busy my schedule is. But you'll get not only the chart, which, looks sort of like this,
Mhm.
uh, you'll get the report that kind of goes through it a little bit. So you're not just left hanging wondering, what does all that mean?
Look at that.
But of course, the very best way is to have a reading of your human design, because even, just a small paragraph isn't really going to give you the depth of who it is that you are here to be. But I absolutely love this system for really orienting people to this day and time that we live in,
Mhm.
because it really does give you such distinct information about how to be you, how to do you.
Yeah, that's amazing. And insights, I mean, I didn't even know to wonder about. It's crazy.
You said that the new moon or in the human design, something was changing 21st, 22nd, and we were talking about lagging and not growing out of the 2022. But this is kind of like the beginning weekend that we're on today.
Yeah. So right now the human design new year begins on the 22nd of the month of January. And the it's when the whole cycle of all of the moon's energy, basically the sun's energy, begins again at the place that we began. And the human design year always begins at the gate 41, which is this bottom gate right here that neither one of you have defined. It's all open within you. So for both of you, it's going to be defined that last from the 22nd. Hold on, I'll tell you the exact date so everybody can hear what that is. From the 22nd of January through the 27th of January. So that entire week is resonating with imagination. So
Ooh.
I'm getting chills. Human design new year doesn't begin on some arbitrary, day because it's the first of the month, which has zero meaning in astrology or anything else, right? It's arbitrary. 1st of January starts the new year. But in human design, the 22nd is the day, or, it's usually a day right around that, where the sun moves into the gate of imagination and starts the process of our creating, right? What do we want to
Ooh.
create? So if you were going to set a day of the month of January to start looking at who do you want to be this year or what do you want to create this year, it's going to come on
Mhm.
that day and in that week, right? That's where
Yeah.
resolutions or intentions are going to be very powerful. This year, it also coincides with Chinese New Year,
Wow.
which doesn't always happen, right? The Chinese New Year often happens in February because it's always the first new moon of the year. Well, the
Mhm.
new moon is on it's the 21st if you're in the universal time zone, but because we're in the Pacific time zone, it's happening on the 22nd in tandem with the Chinese lunar year. That
Wow.
to me is so auspicious, right? What,
Mhm.
I mean, how, what, why, how did that happen, right? How does that happen?
Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think it's a little bit magical, right? That this
Mhm.
year is happening in that way. Um, and I love magic. I mean, I was born in the week of magic, so I love magical
Imagine.
things. And
Oh, I'm with you.
yeah, so the thought that those two things coincide makes me go, okay, well, I really need to be paying attention to what am I focusing on that week, especially. But even now,
Yeah.
starting to think about is this is the opening gate, right? The opening, we're starting to open up to this new energy. We're ending 2022, as it were, and beginning 2023 as we get to the 22nd. Uranus also turns direct that day. I can't even tell you what that means, except that it is a planet that awakens and liberates us. And when he changes direction, suddenly all of the things that maybe we've been holding back from have go signs, right? It's like
Ooh.
you've been down Burlington Boulevard. You guys know how Burlington Boulevard, you can sit at like Burlington Boulevard in Rio Vista and you're looking at all the lights down the road and you can see them, they're all red. And then you get to the green one, and one after another, they begin to turn green, or any street if you've ever paid attention can do
Right.
that. That's what's happening from an astrological or even a
Yeah.
human design point of view, is that the lights are beginning to turn green, where
Okay.
since August, well, maybe October, they've been kind of yellow or red, right? We've been kind
Mm.
of in a slow down or stop
Yeah.
mode. So one by one, these lights start to turn green, which means that whatever it is that you're focusing on is what's about to be brought into reality. So if you're
Ooh.
focusing on stuff you don't want, quickly change that, right? Quickly get out of that mindset, because this is the most powerful part of the year, human design wise, even Chinese New Year now,
Mhm.
to really be planting the seeds for what you want in 2023.
But
Wow.
not necessarily just for mine and Amanda's
Yeah.
charts, for everybody.
Everybody's
Yeah.
charts, right? Everybody.
Well, there's like this.
Everybody is going to have that energy available to them when it hasn't been available recently, right? It's all of the planets will be in forward motion at this point, after on that day, starting that day. And when all those planets are forward, it gives us that jump start. It's like those race horses, you see them and they're behind a gate and they can't go anywhere. And then that gate opens. And what happens is they fly, right? They just jump out that gate. And that's where we are. We're kind of chomping at the bit right now, getting prepared to, because I think everybody can feel it starting this last week on the 12th when Mars turned to direct motion. Everybody's starting to feel, oh, yeah, now I want to move. But we still have Mercury in retrograde until next week, the 18th. And then on the 22nd, we have the Human Design New Year, the Chinese Lunar New Year, and Uranus moving direct, and all planets are direct at that point in time. Get ready.
Wow.
Get your
So if
tennis
we're
shoes
that
on.
racehorse that's gonna bust out, we need to make sure we know what we're heading towards.
Yeah. Be very
Yeah.
aware of what you're heading for, right? Be directing it, not being the victim of it or being
Yeah.
at the effect of it, right? You want to be the director. You
Yes.
wanna be the orchestrator. You wanna be the one that's laying the playbook and saying, "Okay, this is what we're gonna do."
Come on, let's go.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right, right. Right, so for once, it will be all, of the lights are green moving down the
Yeah.
highway,
Amazing.
and take advantage of it.
Oh my gosh. We have
Yeah,
to. We
we
need
have to.
to.
This is
And
the sign,
this is the sign, right? This is
All
your
of
right?
you waiting for a sign.
wait, if you're
This is
waiting for
the
a sign,
sign.
this might be the
Now
week
is the
to do it.
time.
Now is the time, not tomorrow, the
Yeah.
22nd. The 22nd.
Yeah.
But you could be doing yourself the favor now by tapping into the imagination, like the possibilities, what could be. Like what could be if I got out of my way and I stopped being afraid of who I am or what could happen?
Mm.
What's possible for me, right?
Ooh.
Looking at things from possibility and potential rather than shutting it down already from fear or a feeling of I can't have what I want. Because I guarantee you, if that's how you start this year, that's exactly what you're going to get.
Mm.
Yeah.
Manifest, manifest, manifest.
Maybe we should do like a meditation that's what could be.
I
like
mean,
on that,
mhm.
and take away all the financial burdens of take away all the fears of
Yeah,
what could be, what do you want? That would be really nice. And then listen to it every night or something.
Yeah. And I just want to say to everybody, remember that your outer world, what you see in your outer world, is an outpicturing of what you've been focusing on. If you
Mm,
don't like what you see in your outer world, change your inner world. Start
yeah.
with a meditation that brings in abundance. Start with a meditation that brings in health. Because the focus is what's driving the outer world. It's not the outer world that's driving your focus. It's the other way around. So
Yeah.
people don't realize that they get caught up in that victim of circumstance thing, right?
Mhm.
Where things that happen in the outer world are um, to blame, right? Your spouse says something to you that you don't like, and you get into a fight, but it was his fault. But it wasn't. That had to come from within you, right? Something
Mm,
within you reacted badly to something you might have
reactive
said or
or
did.
response.
Yeah, so if you don't like your outer world, change your inner one. And that starts with what you're focusing on. What am I thinking about?
Mhm.
Right? What are my beliefs? All of that, because everybody is empowered to make their own reality. We are co-creators. We are
True.
fully in co-creator mode. Uh, so if you don't like it, change it. Right?
Right.
Change yourself. Like if you don't like your relationship, you can't change the other person, no matter
mhm,
how you try. But you can change yourself. How you
Mhm.
respond to that person,
Right.
how you
Choices.
yeah, how you think about yourself, how you think about that is
Mhm.
very much in your purview.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I could go
Lovely.
on and on. This is such a great
Changing
subject.
can't be bad if your life is not going the way you want it. And then all of a sudden, what's going to hurt you by moving in this direction? You have nothing to lose.
Correct. And yet it's fear. We are in our very fabric of our DNA, fear is there. And it is there because it is meant to keep us alive, to survive.
Right.
But unfortunately, all those survival energies got turned into the ones that we call false evidence appearing real, the acronym for fear.
Mm,
So they're usually false fears, right? Afraid of getting up and speaking in front of an audience.
mhm.
Hello, what's the fear there? Are you going to die? Right? Likely, if you looked at that fear, it's about not being heard, not being seen, not being understood.
Saying the
Something,
wrong words.
Mhm.
again, coming from within you, though, that's your own fear
Mhm.
and you're projecting it outwards.
Mhm.
So, false evidence appearing real is what most fear is turned into. Although,
Right.
if you're walking down a dark alley in downtown Seattle at night and you get those hackles up on the back of your neck, that's probably real fear. Pay attention to that kind of fear. But
Right.
in human design, we always say, feel the fear and do it anyway, right? Feel the fear and do it anyway, because who is in charge? The fear
Yeah.
or you?
Yeah.
Right.
Right? So I think, fear
Amazing.
is a natural thing, a natural reaction to something new or being unsure about yourself or what you do.
Mhm.
But it's not an excuse. It
No,
Right.
can't be an excuse.
Right.
absolutely not.
This has been amazing. God, you're just a wealth of knowledge. I just love you.
Mhm.
Did you know I channel? In my human design, I channel. And it's not
Japanese
channeling like I
class.
go away. I'm very aware. I'm very
Mhm.
here. But whatever needs to be said is often just dropping in on me. And
Mhm.
I don't I'm not aware like I did that. It just
Mhm.
happens naturally. And
Mhm.
everybody actually has a gate 12, which is the gate of the channel. So
Mhm.
everybody can do that at different times. I just happen to have it defined in my chart. So it's how I work. I don't even when I'm doing a reading for you, I might not even be going off what I'm seeing here because there's other information that's coming in that's much more important for you to hear. So I just go with that flow. I used to fight that.
My
Uh,
gate is
Right.
open. It's white.
Yes,
Nice.
it's white for you. It's defined for Amanda, however. So
Mm.
Mhm.
Amanda, what is it at gate 12 for you? It's your north node. How old are you, Amanda? Can I ask?
Yeah, I'm 39.
I know you're 39. You were born the same year as my daughter. Duh. So you're going to be 40 this year, and this is a transition point for you. You're
Mm.
transitioning from the south node, which is at the gate 11, ideas and inspiration and
Mhm.
seeking, to the gate of the channel, which
Oh,
puts you, because, yeah, Heather was born in May. So, yeah, you guys have the same north node. So your life now from 40 onward begins to transition to being in that divine stream of consciousness and then sharing what you know from that position.
Ooh,
Cool.
cool. I will look forward to turning 40.
Indeed, it's a great thing to turn 40 with that one. And it's interesting because for you, the details about that are that it's going to unleash when you're with people.
Mm,
So it's not going to be it because of it's hanging, right? So it's going to unleash when you have someone who has gate 22 defined, and or when planets are coming across that. And that's similar to what happens to me. So it unleashes for me when I'm working with a client.
I see.
Yeah, so it might be that you have a future in some way of doing healing, readings, coaching, counseling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be great.
yeah,
I love that.
yep.
Well,
So
guys, you got to learn about your charts. Holy freaking moly.
Yeah.
that's where it all
So,
begins. It begins with a chart. Um,
yeah,
and then a whole new world of you opens up.
yeah. So, Janet, I'll put all your information on here so people can just click it, find you. I've checked out Janet's site. She has a ton of different offerings. Help
Mm,
yourself out. Go see Janet.
Yep. Yeah.
right. Do that. Do that.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you for coming. It's been amazing and giving us your time
Thank you
and
for
your
having me.
energy.
I told you I would take over.
It's fine. Fine.
yeah.
Well,
Only
thank
you
you.
know that information. We don't, right? I just want to share, your knowledge, and I think it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you both so much. You are so great together. I just want to validate that for you in our closing here that you are meant to be doing this together and
Mhm.
bring out your brilliance, shine it out to the world because you got it.
Aw.
Yeah. You got it together.
Yeah.
So carry on.
Carry on. Bye, Janet.
Bye, Janet. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Oops. There we go.
Oh, that made me emotional.
Oh my goodness. You guys.
That was amazing. I hope everybody checks her out. I love her charts. And just to get a free one to start you off, I mean, that's a win-win. She also does live videos every Monday and Friday mornings on Facebook. So you can watch that, pop in, watch the comments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really incredible. So, um,
For our first guest, this was amazing.
yeah, and then next week we're gonna do going over psychic tools that you can use at home. And maybe we'll do a meditation or something to go along with the new information we got from Janet.
Okay, perfect.
Start getting our seeds planted
For February.
for February. Yeah. Cool. Well, let's say goodbye, guys.
Nice seeing you.
Yeah.